Yo, what's really going on in the West Coast streets? Today, we're diving into a shocking showdown that has fans buzzing everywhere. Yes, we're talking about the legendary Suge Knight. Once the kingpin of Death Row Records, facing a massive clash with Ice Cube, and let's just say, things did not go Suge's way. Rumors have been swirling for months about old rivalries, hidden grudges, and one event that would finally put Suge in the hot seat, and Ice Cube came prepared. Sources close to the scene claim that what happened was not just a verbal confrontation, it was a total humiliation, leaving Suge Knight stunned and the audience in disbelief. This story isn't just about two icons. It's about power, reputation, and the harsh realities of hip-hop history. Cube, the man who started it all with NWA, came in with no fear, no hesitation, and absolutely no mercy. And fans watching live, they couldn't believe their eyes. From secret meetings to long-hidden tensions, from verbal jabs to public clapbacks, this clash had it all. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what went down, why it matters, and how it could change the legacy of both these hip-hop legends forever. So, grab your popcorn, hit that like button, and let's break down the moment Suge Knight got humiliated by Ice Cube. The West Coast hip-hop scene has always been more than music. It's a battlefield of legacies, power struggles, and street politics. And in the center of some of the most intense clashes stands Suge Knight, the notorious co-founder of Death Row Records. For decades, he ruled with a mix of fear, influence, and a reputation that was unmatched. But time doesn't stop, and the streets have a memory of their own. The story begins in the late 80s and early 90s, when NWA emerged as the voice of the streets. Ice Cube was the wordsmith, the visionary, the genius that brought raw storytelling to the forefront. Suge Knight, on the other hand, was the business backbone, the man who made sure the empire thrived. But as history shows, not every partnership remains intact. Cube left NWA early to pursue a solo career, seeking artistic independence, while Suge stayed behind, consolidating power at Death Row Records. This separation planted seeds of tension. Although both men achieved legendary status, their paths were never fully reconciled. Sources close to the industry reveal that Suge Knight often viewed Cube's departure as a betrayal. While Ice Cube saw Suge's methods as intimidation disguised as business savvy, their dynamic was always complex, a mix of admiration, rivalry, and unspoken grudges that simmered just below the surface. Fast forward to recent years. Despite stepping back from the public eye, Suge Knight has been attempting to reassert influence in the West Coast hip-hop scene, making appearances at events and leveraging old alliances. Rumors swirled that he was trying to reclaim relevance, reminding the world that he once controlled the streets, the studios, and the artists. This strategy, however, was fraught with risk. Suge's reputation, while formidable, had eroded in the public eye due to legal troubles, failed ventures, and personal controversies. Meanwhile, Ice Cube had built an empire of his own. Beyond music, he became a cultural icon, from films to business ventures to continued musical influence. His legacy was untouchable, his reputation untarnished, and his influence undeniable. While Suge relied on intimidation and past glory, Cube relied on craft strategy and a calculated presence. The tension reached a boiling point when insiders revealed that Suge had made public remarks targeting Cube, suggesting that the industry had forgotten who built the West Coast scene. Fans online erupted, dissecting every statement and creating viral clips that circulated across YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Analysts noted that Suge was trying to rewrite history in his favor, but the response was swift and damning. Ice Cube, known for his calm and calculated approach, prepared to address the remarks head-on, setting the stage for an unforgettable confrontation. Sources indicate that the confrontation was planned at a Hollywood industry event, a private gathering that Suge hoped to leverage in his favor. Witnesses claimed that Suge entered with his usual aura of authority, attempting to intimidate and assert dominance over anyone present, including Cube, but Ice Cube's reaction was reportedly composed, almost effortlessly cutting through Suge's bravado. Every word, every gesture was designed to expose the reality of Suge's waning influence. Attendees said the room went silent as Ice Cube spoke, highlighting Suge Knight's legal troubles, failed business ventures, and public controversies, making it clear that the man who once commanded fear could no longer do so. Observers noted that Suge's confidence wavered, a rare sight for the Death Row legend. His usual swagger and control of the room were completely undermined by Cube's.com authority. Social media erupted immediately. Fans shared clips of the confrontation, reaction videos, and commentary dissecting each moment. Memes mocking Suge's attempts at dominance flooded platforms. While supporters of Ice Cube celebrated the verbal dismantling of a legendary figure, hip-hop analysts weighed in, noting that this moment was more than personal. It was a symbolic shift in the balance of power on the West Coast. But the story doesn't stop there. Insiders say that this confrontation was just the tip of the iceberg. Suge Knight had been planning subtle moves, private conversations, and behind-the-scenes maneuvers to reassert control. Ice Cube, however, had anticipated many of these strategies, and his response was both public and private, ensuring Suge could not regain the upper hand. The contrast between the two men's strategies is fascinating. Suge relies on intimidation, fear, and reputation, while Cube uses strategy, timing, and influence. This confrontation revealed the stark difference. Suge's tactics, while effective decades ago, no longer carry the weight they once did, especially against someone like Ice Cube, who has mastered the art of control without aggression. Eyewitnesses describe a moment where Suge attempted to escalate physically, only to be restrained by security. Cube didn't need to raise his voice or move an inch. The sheer presence, the history, and the calculated delivery of his words were enough to humiliate Suge in front of the crowd, marking one of the most shocking moments in modern West Coast hip-hop history. Fans online immediately picked up on the drama. YouTube reaction videos exploded, Twitter threads analyzed every detail, and Instagram clips went viral, highlighting how a man once feared by the industry could be publicly humiliated without a single punch thrown. Analysts suggested this could mark a turning point. While Suge Knight remains a legend, his power, influence, and control over the streets have diminished in the eyes of the public. It's clear this isn't just a personal feud. It's a story about legacy, power, and the evolution of hip-hop authority. Suge Knight, once untouchable, faces a new reality. Ice Cube, as calm and strategic as ever, proves that respect is earned, influence is maintained, and legends endure, even against some of the most notorious figures in the game. The tension in the room was palpable. For decades, Suge Knight's presence alone had the power to make people freeze, to command attention without saying a word. His reputation as the co-founder of Death Row Records and the man who shaped West Coast hip-hop had instilled fear and respect alike. But this night was different. This time, the man he aimed to intimidate wasn't just anyone, it was Ice Cube, one of the most respected legends in hip-hop history. Sources say the confrontation began subtly. Suge, confident as ever, approached Cube, delivering words laced with intimidation. He referenced the past, hinting at Cube's departure from NWA, and claiming that the West Coast would never have been the same without him. Suge's tone carried his trademark menace, a mix of nostalgia, authority, and threat. But Ice Cube, known for his cool composure, did something unexpected. He refused to be rattled. Eyewitnesses describe a moment when Cube's calm, deliberate responses immediately shifted the energy in the room. He acknowledged Suge's contributions but also laid bare the reality. Suge's empire had crumbled. Legal battles had taken their toll, and his attempts to reassert dominance were laughably outdated. Cube's words weren't just sharp, they were surgical, exposing weaknesses without raising his voice. The crowd watching this unfold was stunned. Suge's usual aura of power began to falter. He tried to regain control, throwing in jabs about influence and past glory. But every statement Cube delivered dismantled Suge's credibility in real time. Attendees later revealed that the room was silent except for Cube's steady voice, a stark contrast to Suge's aggressive energy at one point. Suge attempted to escalate physically, leaning in as if to assert dominance. Security quickly intervened, preventing any physical altercation. Yet, even without contact, the humiliation was complete. Cube's calm and commanding presence rendered Suge powerless in front of the audience, something almost unimaginable for a man who had long thrived on fear and intimidation. Social media erupted almost immediately after the confrontation. Clips of Cube's verbal takedown spread like wildfire. Fans shared reaction videos breaking down every line, every gesture, and every subtle glance. Memes mocking Suge Knight's failed intimidation tactics flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Analysts and bloggers debated the long-term impact on Suge's reputation, noting that this confrontation marked a defining moment in hip-hop history. Interestingly, this was not just about personal pride. Industry insiders explained that the stakes were high. Suge Knight had been secretly attempting to broker deals and regain relevance, hoping to influence upcoming West Coast artists and events. Cube's public dismantling of Suge served as a warning. The old ways of commanding respect through fear no longer worked in modern hip-hop. Influence now required artistry, strategy, and consistency, qualities Cube had in abundance. The fallout didn't stop at the event. Within hours, every major hip-hop news outlet picked up the story. Analysts highlighted the contrast between the two legends. One wielded fear as a weapon, the other wielded intellect, legacy, and presence. Cube's ability to command respect without violence demonstrated a modern form of authority that Suge Knight seemed unprepared to counter. Fans and celebrities weighed in online, Many praised Ice Cube for handling the situation with precision, noting that it took patience, strategy, and confidence to completely dismantle a figure like Suge Knight in a public setting. Others expressed shock at Suge's reaction, remarking on the vulnerability rarely seen from a man of his stature. This moment, commentators suggested, would be remembered as one of the most dramatic and revealing confrontations in hip-hop history. Adding another layer to the story, insiders revealed that Suge had tried to preemptively control the narrative by leaking selective information and arranging private meetings to discuss Cube's past moves. Ice Cube, however, anticipated these tactics, using the event as an opportunity to expose Suge's manipulation and vulnerability in front of witnesses. The outcome: Suge Knight's carefully constructed image of dominance crumbled instantly under Cube's composure and wit. By the end of the confrontation, the crowd was left in disbelief. Cube walked away unshaken, respected, and even more legendary, while Suge Knight retreated, visibly shaken and publicly humiliated. Analysts note that this incident underscores a key lesson for the streets and for the industry alike: legacy. Respect and influence are earned through consistency and strategy, not fear alone. As the clips circulated online, fans everywhere debated the implications. Some argued that Suge Knight's empire had already been declining, and this event merely cemented that reality. Others speculated that Cube's actions could inspire younger West Coast artists to prioritize skill, respect, and authenticity over intimidation. Across the board, one thing was clear: the drama had captured the attention of the entire hip-hop world. This confrontation is now being dissected, frame by frame, by fans, journalists, and analysts alike. Every gesture, every word, every reaction has been analyzed for meaning, signaling that even legends like Suge Knight are not untouchable. In today's era of hip-hop transparency, the confrontation between Suge Knight and Ice Cube didn't just end in that room, it ignited a wildfire. Across social media, the streets, and the music industry, within hours, videos of the encounter went viral. Fans dissected every word, every gesture, every moment of Suge's humiliation. Memes flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, showing exaggerated reactions, mockery, and sarcastic commentary aimed squarely at Suge Knight. One clip, showing Cubes.com yet cutting response to Suge's intimidation attempt, received millions of views within the first 24 hours. Fans were astonished. How could someone as notorious as Suge Knight be so publicly dismantled? The reactions weren't limited to memes. Many fans began debating on forums, live streams, and comment sections whether Suge's era of dominance was truly over, or if he would attempt a comeback. Industry insiders quickly weighed in. Some pointed out that Suge Knight had lost relevance over the years due to a combination of legal troubles, failed ventures, and public controversies. Cube's confrontation merely exposed these vulnerabilities in a very public way. One source described the event as a modern-day West Coast reckoning, demonstrating that respect and influence now rely on legacy, credibility, and strategic presence rather than fear alone. Meanwhile, Ice Cube's reputation soared. Analysts and fans alike praised Cube for his composure, noting that he didn't need physical intimidation or dramatic theatrics. Instead, he relied on legacy, experience, and verbal precision to humiliate one of the most feared figures in hip-hop. Many called it a masterclass in handling confrontation, proving once again why Cube's influence remains untouchable. Celebrities and industry figures also chimed in. Some West Coast artists quietly expressed relief that Cube had handled the situation without violence, emphasizing that words and presence were far more powerful than brute force. Others suggested that this moment would reshape the perception of power in the hip-hop community, signaling that even someone like Suge Knight could be publicly humiliated if he miscalculated. Fans weren't just watching, they were reacting, creating a wave of user-generated content. Reaction channels posted breakdowns of Cube's remarks, analyzing every line and movement. Commentary videos highlighted how Suge Knight's intimidation tactics backfired, and how Cube's strategic response left him exposed. The discussions were heated, with some defending Suge, others cheering Cube, and many simply stunned by the sheer intensity of the encounter. Beyond the public sphere, insiders revealed that the music industry itself felt the impact. Labels, managers, and producers started reconsidering alliances, noting that Suge Knight's influence had waned and that his ability to intimidate artists or executives was no longer guaranteed. Cube, in contrast, strengthened his status as a figure who commands respect without fear, an invaluable asset in the modern music business. Analysts also pointed out the psychological aspect. Suge Knight's attempts to dominate Cube weren't just public, they were personal. Cubes.com dismantling of Suge's threats demonstrated emotional intelligence, strategic patience, and psychological mastery. Fans and experts alike noted that this was more than a verbal altercation. It was a lesson in power dynamics and legacy preservation. Even fans from outside the West Coast took notice. Social media users nationwide shared reactions, debates, and commentary, creating a national conversation about Suge Knight, Ice Cube, and the evolution of hip-hop authority. Some compared it to legendary rap battles of the past, while others saw it as a turning point for modern-day West Coast hip-hop. The event also sparked renewed interest in both Cube and Suge's past rivalries. Analysts began revisiting old interviews, historical footage, and behind-the-scenes stories, connecting the dots between Cube's early success, Suge's rise to power, and the tensions that never fully disappeared. This analysis only fueled the drama further, reminding fans that hip-hop history is often a complex mix of rivalry, respect, and unspoken grudges. Interestingly, some reports suggested that Suge Knight attempted damage control immediately after the event, reaching out to industry contacts and friends to spin the narrative. But Cube had already taken control of the story, ensuring that the public perception leaned in his favor. Sources say this is a rare moment in hip-hop, where one figure's legacy was publicly reinforced, while another's vulnerabilities were exposed by the end of the week. Media coverage expanded beyond hip-hop outlets. Major entertainment news sources picked up the story, emphasizing the shocking humiliation of a legendary figure. Headlines highlighted Cube's precision, Suge's failed intimidation, and the overwhelming fan response, cementing this encounter as one of the most talked-about moments in modern hip-hop history. The fans' response wasn't just limited to social media. Reaction videos, memes, and commentary reached millions globally. Cube's.com authority was praised, while Suge's attempt to reclaim dominance became a lesson in how past influence can fade without adaptability. Social media analytics showed that engagement on clips from this event skyrocketed, with millions watching, sharing, and discussing the fallout. Some fans argued that Suge Knight might attempt a comeback, but insiders noted that public perception and industry alliances have shifted. Cube's handling of the situation has set a precedent. Intimidation alone doesn't work anymore. Strategic mastery, presence, and timing define authority in the modern era. The narrative is clear. Ice Cube didn't just win a confrontation. He redefined the dynamics of respect, power, and legacy in hip-hop. Suge Knight, while still a legend, faced a reality check in front of witnesses, fans, and the entire industry. What happened wasn't just a personal moment, it's now a defining chapter in hip-hop history. One that will be analyzed, remembered, and talked about for years to come. The West Coast hip-hop world was still buzzing days after the confrontation. Social media platforms were flooded with reactions, debates, and clips showing IceCubes.com dismantling of Suge Knight's intimidation tactics. Fans couldn't get enough. Some celebrated Cube's legendary poise, while others expressed shock at seeing a man of Suge Knight's stature publicly humiliated. Industry insiders reveal that the fallout reached far beyond that single event. Suge Knight's reputation, once synonymous with dominance and fear, had taken a hit that would be difficult to recover from. Prominent West Coast artists and producers began reassessing their associations, realizing that Suge's influence no longer carried the same weight it once did. Deals that might have once been handled behind closed doors, with Suge's approval, now required different, strategic considerations. On the other hand, Ice Cube's status as a cultural and industry icon was strengthened beyond measure. Analysts noted that this was not just about a personal victory, it was a demonstration of how modern hip-hop authority is earned. Influence no longer relied solely on fear or past achievements. It was about strategy, presence, and respect. Cube's ability to control the narrative, without raising his voice, set a precedent for future artists and industry leaders. Fans continued to dissect the event, creating endless reaction videos, memes, and commentary. Some highlighted the subtle gestures Cube used to assert dominance: a calm stare, measured pauses, and concise but cutting words. Others noted how Suge Knight's usual confidence crumbled, revealing vulnerabilities rarely seen in public. Every detail was analyzed, and the drama became a lesson in power dynamics for aspiring artists and industry insiders alike. In the weeks following, Suge Knight attempted to regain footing, making strategic appearances and reaching out to old allies. However, the perception damage was lasting. Cube had already solidified public opinion, and any attempts at reclaiming authority were met with skepticism, online mockery, and cautious industry reception. The reality was clear. The era of fear-based influence was over, at least in the public eye. This confrontation also sparked broader discussions about hip-hop history and legacy. Analysts compared it to other legendary West Coast moments, highlighting how Ice Cube's intellect and strategy outweighed brute force, even against someone as notorious as Suge Knight. The streets, the industry, and the fans all recognized a shift. Respect now required wisdom, timing, and authenticity rather than intimidation alone, perhaps. The most important lesson for fans and artists alike is that legacy isn't just about power. It's about how you maintain it. Suge Knight had power for decades, but time and circumstances exposed the limitations of fear as a tool. Ice Cube, by contrast, demonstrated that enduring influence is about consistency, control, and the ability to adapt. The drama also inspired new narratives across social media. Reaction channels, hip-hop commentators, and fan forums kept the story alive, analyzing every clip, dissecting every line, and debating possible next moves for Suge Knight. It was clear that this confrontation would be remembered as a defining moment in modern West Coast hip-hop history. As the dust settled, one thing became undeniably clear. Ice Cube had reasserted his dominance not through aggression, but through strategy and composure. Suge Knight, while still a legendary figure, had experienced one of the most public humiliations of his career, and the world had witnessed a power shift in real time. This chapter in hip-hop history serves as a reminder that even the most feared figures are not invincible, and that influence, respect, and legacy are earned and can be challenged at any time. If you thought you knew the West Coast hip-hop story, think again. This confrontation between Suge Knight and Ice Cube proves that even legends can face moments that shock the streets and the industry alike. Did Suge Knight overstep? Was Ice Cube's response the ultimate masterclass in strategy and control? Fans around the world are still debating, and now it's your turn to join the conversation. Hit that like button if you were as stunned as we were by Cubes.com dismantling of Suge's intimidation. Comment below with your thoughts. Do you think Suge can bounce back, or has his era of dominance truly ended? Share your opinions on who you think holds real power in hip-hop today. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications because we're bringing you all the drama, behind-the-scenes stories, and shocking confrontations from the world of hip-hop, moments that no other channel dares to cover. From legendary rivalries to untold secrets, we'll break it all down, giving you exclusive insights and viral reactions that keep the streets talking. Don't miss out. Join the community, watch every clip, and be part of the conversation that's shaking the music industry. The drama isn't over. The streets are watching, and the legacy battles are only getting started. Stay tuned, because in hip-hop, anything can happen, and legends like Ice Cube have proven they can teach lessons even in the most explosive situations.